7 miles from the stadium, Thomas Hicks asks for water. His handlers refuse it. Instead, Charles Lucas moistens Hicks's mouth and gives him 1/60th of a grain of strychnine sulfate, along with egg white. The leader of the Olympic marathon is beginning to collapse, and the men responsible for keeping him alive believe a stimulant, better known today as poison, is more useful than a drink. This was August 30th, 1904, in St. Louis. The modern Olympic Games were still young. The marathon distance had not yet been standardized, and the event was being held inside the sprawling Louisiana Purchase Exposition. The race would cover roughly 24.85 miles, not today's 26.2, but almost everything else made it harder. An afternoon start, temperatures in the low 90s Fahrenheit, 7 major hills, loose roads, choking dust, and ordinary traffic that had not been cleared away. 32 men were listed as starters. Some were experienced marathoners. Others looked as though they had wandered in from entirely different stories. Felix Carvajal, a former Cuban mail carrier, arrived in street clothes and heavy shoes. His trousers were cut short before the start. Len Taunyane and Jan Masciani, Tswana men connected to a South African exhibit at the World's Fair, entered a competition they had not crossed the Atlantic specifically to run. They had also been drawn into the fair's degrading anthropology days, where indigenous participants were displayed, measured, and pushed into staged athletic contests for entertainment and supposed racial comparison. Greek athletes, American club runners, and competitors from several countries crowded onto the track at Francis Field. The variety of the field later made the race famous. The danger came from the people organizing it. After several laps inside the stadium, the runners went out onto country roads. Automobiles carrying doctors, judges, reporters, and officials moved beside them. Their wheels churned the dry surface into clouds so thick that runners disappeared inside them. The dust coated mouths and eyes. It was swallowed into stomachs and pulled deep into lungs. There was only one official source of fresh water on the course, a roadside well around the 12-mile mark. That was not simply a logistical oversight. James E. Sullivan, the powerful organizer overseeing the Olympic athletics program, belonged to a sporting culture that often treated drinking during distance running as a weakness. In a later training manual, he warned runners against developing the habit of drinking and eating during a race. At St. Louis, restricted water became part of the ordeal. The field began breaking almost immediately. John Lorden, one of the leading American runners, vomited after the opening miles and withdrew. Others slowed to a walk or collapsed beside the road. The heat mattered, but the combination of heat, hills, thirst, dust, and moving vehicles made the course something more dangerous than a normal test of endurance. William Garcia of California became the clearest warning. He was found lying in the road after inhaling and swallowing so much dust that he suffered a severe hemorrhage. The official report admitted that, without assistance, he might have bled to death before anyone found him. Another story became part of the race's legend. Len Taunyane was reportedly chased about a mile off course by a wild dog. The surviving accounts do not justify the later image of a pack of feral animals hunting runners through the countryside. One dog is strange enough. In a properly controlled Olympic race, even that should have been impossible. Yet the most public breakdown in control belonged to Frederick Lorz. Around 9 miles into the race, cramps forced him to stop. He climbed into an automobile and rode for roughly 11 miles. When the vehicle later broke down, Lorz got out and began running again. He entered Francis Field first, crossed the finish line, and was greeted as the winner before the ride was exposed. Lorz said he had crossed as a joke. Whether it was fraud or an absurd prank, The episode revealed the same failure. A runner could leave the course, travel roughly 11 miles by car, return, and reach the victory ceremony before officials understood what had happened. While Lorz was being celebrated and unmasked, Thomas Hicks was still outside the stadium. Hicks had taken the lead after stronger runners around him faded. 10 miles from the finish, he showed obvious signs that he might not be able to continue. His handlers included Charles Lucas and Hugh McGrath. Lucas would later write the official account of what happened. When Hicks asked for water, they refused it. They moistened his mouth instead. 7 miles from the stadium came the first dose of strychnine sulfate and egg white. At the time, strychnine had medical uses in extremely small quantities and was sometimes treated as a stimulant. There were no modern anti-doping rules preventing its use. But the margin between stimulation and poisoning was narrow, and Hicks was already dehydrated, overheated, and exhausted. A few miles later, he begged to lie down. His handlers would not let him. They gave him more egg, bathed him with warm water, administered another dose of strychnine, and added brandy. The official report describes the result without understanding how damning it sounds. Hicks became ashen. His eyes lost focus. He began moving in a mechanical rhythm, as though the body continued after the mind had stopped directing it. He believed the finish line was still 20 miles away. Lucas described him as hallucinating. This was not a runner receiving emergency care so he could be removed from danger. It was a collapsing athlete being chemically and physically managed so he could remain inside the competition. Near the stadium, Hicks could no longer run normally. His handlers supported him forward while his legs continued their motion. He crossed the line in 3 hours, 28 minutes, and 53 seconds. Officials caught him as he finished. Doctors examined him and found his vitality dangerously low. He had lost 8 pounds during the race. Of the 32 men listed as starters, only 14 are generally recorded as finishers. Hicks received the gold medal. The official report concluded that the marathon had demonstrated the value of drugs and warm sponging for athletes on the road. That conclusion is the real center of the story. The St. Louis Marathon is often remembered as a comedy of strychnine, automobile shortcuts, improvised clothing, and a dog chasing a runner into the countryside. Those details are memorable because they are absurd. But treating the race as a collection of funny Olympic mistakes hides the system that produced them. The course was not controlled. The vehicles were allowed to poison the air with dust. Water was restricted under a flawed theory of endurance. Medical assistance was used not to end suffering, but to keep a failing runner moving. The rules allowed forms of coaching and aid that would later become incompatible with fair competition. Organizers watched the damage, recorded it, and interpreted survival as proof that their methods worked. The race did not instantly create modern marathon safety. It did not nearly end the Olympic Games. The marathon continued, and reform came gradually. Distances became standardized. Courses became more tightly controlled. Hydration science changed. Medical protocols, assistance rules, and anti-doping systems developed over decades, often after later failures exposed new risks. What St. Louis offers is not one clean origin story. It is a view of elite sport before many of those protections existed. The men on that road were not merely competing against one another. They were running inside an institution that had not yet decided where endurance ended and negligence began. Their suffering was treated as data. Their collapse became part of the spectacle. Hicks won because his body remained upright long enough for other men to feed, drug, support, and guide it to the line. Was the ugliest part of the 1904 marathon the suffering itself, or the fact that the men in charge mistook that suffering for useful evidence?